to move the mic in the position. I'm still live though. I still win it. Alright, I think around here. Alright. So first, I gotta do the spooky patch notes. Oh, there was a tiny up. Okay, well, first we need to do this long laundry list of changes that probably basically do nothing, if we're being honest with ourselves. There's no way it did anything that would, like, shake up the meta or whatever. And also, I probably want to fix audio levels too, especially because the stream's actually muted right now for desktop audio. So hang on. Okay, we got that. It's very bad. So let me see if that is muted. I'm still the quietest thing, so this may properly balance it. Okay, so I'm now talking over it, which is what I do. Because, you know, when you use the mic in a way where you need to eat it, it does like this. You're also a tism, frickin' tism, so... I killed Origin real fast, because it was being annoying. Alright, so that audio tismery is fixed. If people talk, they'll have to fix that separately, because I don't know what the volume levels would even be. But this is... the audio is now fixed. It was probably wacky last week because I was having issues with the PC, but that should be fixed. Might have been a little bit whack. Alright, so... we got, like, some spooky keybinds and things being renamed. That is so, like, not any level of tism. It's like, yeah, new keys for just, like, functions that already existed. Which is totally not gonna mess up the control scheme. So many changes that I don't care. It's like, yeah, scope assign the scope, don't assign the scope. Sideways that scope. Scope will do this, scope will do that. Scope. Scopey scope. Scopity scope. Scoop. That's what the patch notes say, essentially. Oh my god, there's a border. And there's more tutorials. You know, small model improvements and thrusters that you also probably won't notice. Probably. These could really use improved readability, as in, like, having, like, categories of additions, minor changes, major changes, quality of life, That would make it like 5 times easier to read. For the stupid Tetris. I'll probably play this somewhere though, because I'll be at the beach, so it'll be fun. Alright, then there's even oh yeah, just casual night vision too, and headlights, ship lights. I think we're done reading that. Oh, there's people. So I don't go mad. Or matter, yeah. I don't think that was always blue. Yeah. I should finally fix the gosh darn colors to be what I want them to be. Even though I don't remember what that exactly entails. Even though I consider his cheating as well, I just don't have a choice to use anything else anymore. Okay, so we need to go into our theme editor, which is here, even here. Alright, and then I need to use, you know, the spooky paintbrush. So, you know, primary color, it's gonna be, pretty sure this is the one I want to be. Twice. Yep. And then L enemies. We want that to be a very, like, nice, contrasting gray. We then want the border to be the ship color, so we're in the light fighter, so that will be a nice shade of blue. And then the background needs to be pure darkness, so that you get that nice, like, you get rid of the frostings. I don't like that. Okay. Shit. There we go, it's fixed now. And I got the gray, because I was liking the, because I left the gray on the heavy fighter on full PC. Like, the blue's a little nuclear, but it's kind of that's how it is. Weirdly, I'm definitely a lot better at flying in PlanetSide 2 than I am in this game right now, because I stopped caring about being prideful about aiming using your own projectiles. I just started only caring about the hit marker and then referencing it before I'm aiming visually until I can finally figure out how to use the damn things in PlanetSide 2. Whereas before, I was never bothering to do that because I just didn't care. Too apathetic. It's fine because of this. It's still useful. It's why it is. I feel like there's some sort of yeah, see it. The noticeable shade of gray. The only thing that separates you from your allies is just a few shades of gray. That's how it works. If they're evil, they'll be gray. If they're good, they'll be nice. watching lots of spooky ghost shows. I'm a big believer in the spooks that haunt you on a daily basis. And I try as hard as I can to like find the logic with the tisms, but they're just too unknowable. I feel like it's a lot of concept that I never understand. Without like actual scientists taking it seriously and actually trying to document what's really going on. Because people just don't to take it seriously enough to actually figure out how it exists. They don't even think it's existing. Alright, I do think it exists. It's a big exist. Could have been that this monitor being at its fastest response, because it's just a laptop screen, which I really like still, might cause it to be a little bit worse than it normally is. Having the ultra fast response might like compromise consistency. Because I remember turning off the really fast response and feeling like that was pretty good actually. So I might just turn it back off and just let the monitor be more what it actually is for a response to it. Maybe I could fix that small issue there. That'd be quite nice. I don't know why there's so many SRSs just around. Oh, but the other thing with the spooky plant sides is doing a lot of the base because that's like what I committed to with a character. And while I had to give up my dreams of getting the artillery unlocked for various reasons, I almost have like a basic base completely unlocked where I could be one of the people who builds like the fully kitted out bases. Although the funny thing is, I noticed that with Osher, definitely all of the insane base builders go there, as in the ones that care vehemently about like the cosmetic appearance of their base, to where everything needs to be symmetrical and like very extremely over defended. Like I saw one base that was using the Sunday garage as a house for all of the modules, which are usually kind of fragile, because the Sunday garage you can put shields on both sides of it, is what you can do. So so you put all the modules in there and the spawner in there, so it's a completely protected spawn as long as there's Corium. Which is, nice and all, but I just don't consider it very necessary. But, stuff like that, it's kind of fun. I mean, the shield module in general isn't very useful, because it's just so rare that your base is ever getting attacked in a way that the frickin' battlements are ever useful. And so putting the shield on the battlements is just like, well, I guess a sniper isn't gonna snipe you through the battlements anymore, because it's a one-way shield now. But realistically, it's like you just never use them. Like it's hard enough to shoot rockets out of it without hitting the frickin' wall. Especially if you're walking onto an aircraft or a land vehicle, if you like using rocket launchers. Good luck getting that rocket to exit the hole in the wall in a predictable manner that doesn't blow it up and take half your health with it. Because the odds are it's gonna hit the wall and take half your health. Instead of going through the hole to whatever it's supposed to. It's only really, like, consistent with dumbfire. But, because they buffed the frickin' anti-material rifle, you could probably just get a bunch of people to spam that, and you can be doing anti-infantry and anti-vehicle at the same time, because it's a one-hit kill on infantry headshots now. So with one weapon, you can do anti-infantry, anti-vehicle, and to an extent anti-air, which isn't really that important because all you need for anti-air is one flak and he can suppress the entirety of the enemy air force. As long as the air force isn't coordinated enough to kill the one flak, which at that point, if you have two flaks, they're probably just screwed and they couldn't even coordinate to get them before the flaks would just wipe them out. Because one flak is already like you could kill like many fighters before you'll die. And with two flaks, it's like not even a Liberator can like win against two flaks. I mean, I think even with one flak has the advantage. And the only way a Liberator wins is if it's a big sneaky, which Liberators are known to be somewhat sneaky. Especially on people like me who run their volume really low on Plant Site 2, so that I can like hear my friend knows me. Because I care more about talking about nonsense than any semblance of winning. Which is probably why I just build so many bases in the middle of nowhere that don't really help anyone. They don't even help me that much, apart from like the spawning, like spawning the vehicles and yourself. That kind of helps a little bit, but just not too much. It's only very specific. Trying to think why it is that this game is so esoteric and weird. Well, I already know the main reason. Which is like stupid asymmetrical forces ruin everything. And the energy system changes. It's like totally only those two. That's like off. Everything else is like, yeah, it's perfectly fine. Also trying to think. There was some differing opinions that would be critical. But I think I figured out what it actually. I think it was Skulls. Real. Shock. That's what I was Reading out. Yeah, I think the asymmetrical Gs might actually give Pips an advantage over Gun more than it normally does, simply because if someone has the Pip on you, and you're gonna try to throw off the Pip by like going any direction other than up, you're not gonna be able to move like long enough to like do anything. And he's gonna see from his Pip like the feedback. He's getting that zero latency input on what your ship's doing. So he already knows like the moment that you can't like strafe a certain direction, and he can already possibly be leading you before you've even done the input yourself. He already knows like that, okay, you've moved left as far as you can, so you can only go up or down. And I know if you go down, it's gonna be like, you can go down for like a second, and then I know you can't go down anymore. You can't downstream anymore. Which means that's like, so really, it's like you're probably gonna go up or right. So instead of the asymmetrical G, where in that scenario, you would have like 3 options for like just strafing movement for what you could do, but with the asymmetrical Gs, you really have 2 options, which is up strafe and right strafe if you maxed out your left strafe. And even on like the symmetrical Gs, that would mean if you did burn out your left strafe, you're more likely to actually successfully like at least throw someone's pip off enough to like at least help you if the left strafe ended up being a good decision for the time. So if you left strafe and someone wasn't like ready for that, and they had to like do a maneuver to get back on target, then that would, you'd be more likely to be, you know, successful. Whereas with asymmetrical Gs, because the left strafe's gonna max out like faster if he's already up strafing the counter you, which I'm pretty sure most people will just learn to do that, even though I don't, because I'm just stubborn and don't want to. It's like I don't want to play like to the G-forces. I don't find it very fun. So I just refuse to do it. It's like I'll just continue to half-ass the G system, because it's like I don't like the G system. If I liked it more, I might care about it more. It's like I just care enough to live within like its existence. I need to start the next thing, because it's gonna be empty for like another period of time that is 30 seconds. But yeah, I think that's the thing I never really thought about the asymmetrical Gs. It's like, okay, what's the other thing? What's other consequences of it? For just like killing variety, which is like what I blame it for, which is just like it makes you feel like you have a lot less options for it feels like there's a meta way just to move, which there already was before in the G-forces, because in my mind before with symmetrical Gs, it's like, well, if you were intelligently using your roll to like, you know, roll off Gs and be pushing the limit as hard as you can, that would still be like the technically meta way, but it was more counterbalanced by moving in ways that aren't G optimized, but they're better for your positioning than just purely moving in a way that allows you to move the most distance with the fixed amount of Gs you can roll, which is like G-force optimized. So you'd have like those are like 2 choices you have, but it's like, but with the asymmetrical Gs, suddenly you put way more weight on G-force optimized movement, and you put less importance on anything that isn't optimal for G-forces, which means that any direction other than forwards and up is suboptimal at best. And you can really, and they become like instantly like niche options instead of like under a symmetrical system where, well, any option you have to move is like normally weighted. It's like it doesn't matter from a G-force standpoint what direction you choose to move. It only matters from a positional standpoint. So it means that with this asymmetrical G system, there's times where moving left is a good idea, but because you can't move left as long as you could, it ends up not helping you when under the old system it would have actually been very advantageous for you to notice that doing a left strafe would like put you in a good spot, or allow you to dodge like his like, you know, tracking on you. But you just can't move that direction long enough, which would mean that your choices, if you want to keep moving in that direction, is either to roll and start going up to go left, which is a latency issue, because that means that there's going to be a small period where you're not going to be moving in that direction while you know, roll over. Because if you did it like, because you would have to execute it a lot more. Because in theory, it's like you could transition from a left strafe to doing an up strafe in the left direction so seamlessly that you never like have a lapse in your movement. But even if you did do it perfectly, there would have to be some level of like curving your path, which is just an inefficiency, because this is a scenario where all you need is a straight line going left, so curves mean that you're moving in, like, directions that aren't, like, optimal to the direction you want to go in. So it's like but that's gonna be really small. That's gonna be, like, at most 5%. Like, you're gonna move a total of, like, 5% less distance than you could if you, like, had perfect, like, left stripping. You could just, like, hold left and go. So it means that for that, it's like you're required to switch over to, like, your upstream to continue going left. And that means in, like, the perfect scenarios, I guess I could try this. Yeah, because I think it's more reasonable than I think it is, but it's just not really my preference, because it's like, if I go left, then I go up. It's a lot harder to, like, adapt for me. Yeah, it might just be a personal misunderstanding, but I just way prefer the symmetrical. Because it's like a very specific type of fly. It just bothers me. So I think it's like a case of, like, it's more EPM-y. To, like, try to mimic being able to go any direction with, like, the G-force system that it is right now. It's, I think the main issue is it's throwing your orientation off a lot. So, basically the way this works is I want to keep going left, I then have to go up to continue going left, and then that will max out. So then I want to go right, then I need to go up to continue going right because that's the best vector, then I want to go down to cancel it. It feels like instead of it being... So I'd say in the best case scenario, instead of, like, the symmetrical system, where you just can do whatever you want, you have a lot of freedom. You kind of can just do a lot what you want. The asymmetrical system means that there's, like, a specific pattern. There's a very specific technique that is just going to be better than any other option you have for movement, and I think that's just why I don't like it. It just goes back to... It's not that it's, like, easier or harder. It's more like, I feel like it just ruins your variety really bad. It feels like you get stuck in, like, patterns a lot more. It's like, it's less about, like, you reacting to, like, changing situations. It's more about you knowing patterns that work and just executing those patterns when they come up. So it's like a lot closer to Dark Souls in a way, which is one of the reasons that I don't find myself wanting to, like, play a lot of Souls games. It feels like it's very much about more memorization, or at least that's like to it. It's like you can either be a prodigy at Dark Souls where you can do everything on your first try, or you're in the camp most people are in, whereas it's just a matter of slowly memorizing, like, a boss's plans, and then you'll just do it because you'll just know him so well that you'll just outplay him. And to me, I just don't fancy that, because to me it's like, I know if I play Dark Souls there is no way I would be so good at it that I wouldn't have to memorize the bosses that, like, defeat me. It's like, there's just no way that would happen. So I just don't fancy myself getting stuck on bosses where I'm just waiting until I memorize them to get past them, or I go and overlevel, because I just know I won't have the skill, at least initially, to, like, Wumbo a boss when I see him for the first. It's not gonna happen as much as I want. It's not very good at, like, tactical games where it's, like, correcting decision making. The only advantage I have is, like, mechanical skill sometimes. And by sometimes it's like, well, if my mentality's in the right place, because I'm very, very affected by psychology. To the point where if I don't like something in any game, it will have a massive, massive impact on how well I play. It's like I'm honestly, like, kind of surprised by how much me liking or not liking a game influences my skill level in it. Mainly just out of, like, just unwillingness to be good at it is, like, the main factor. And I'm kind of like thankful that because as soon as that started happening, kind of after Elite Dangerous, I've stopped playing a lot of games that I was not liking, and I feel like I've been a lot less angry playing a lot of games, and I've been a lot less like burnt out generally while playing games, because instead of playing like one game for like super long periods of time, I ended up switching between lots and lots more games than I used to, and I feel like that's made me a lot more enjoyable, because back when I was like a teenager, when I would be stuck playing like one game for really, really, really long periods of time, I would usually almost always get extremely frustrated and just angry every single time I play a game, to the point where I was trying really, really hard to not be angry at it, because then, you know, parents get irritated at me. But that was like more what was going on, so I'm very happy that nowadays me getting angry at a game is way rarer, and if that ever happens, that's usually like me uninstalling the frickin' thing, moving on to something else that doesn't just make me unreasonably angry, instead of just playing it anyway. Because I don't have like the sense of, I don't know what I would describe the sense of like not wanting to play a game that you just aren't enjoying anymore, but the weird kind of stubbornness of like, oh, thinking that it's like, I guess a more tendency to think that you're the problem instead of the game's the problem. I think that's what it is. Because if you always think that it's your fault that you're not good at a game, you'll get stuck in the trap of just playing some game that you don't even like anymore. Just because you think it's like, oh, it's clearly it's me that's the problem. I need to adapt to the game. That's what's going on. It's like, if that's your mentality, you can get stuck doing a lot of like really stupid stuff that doesn't make sense to you, that you don't even like, and you just end up being an emotional like clusterfuck all the time. Which is what it was like for me until after Elite Dangerous, essentially. Like the pre-Elite Dangerous era of my gaming, that was exactly what was going on. But post-Elite Dangerous, that's stopped happening, and I started being way more critical of games I was playing. And trying to only play ones that I thought were either good or that I found fun, and stopped caring about my skill level. Because I was also stuck playing a bunch of games that I played entirely because I was better at them compared to other games due to like time investment. It's like that was something that was going on as well. Why is this shit? Why not land all the way? What's going on? Is it like the enemy ship declawed to where the turrets shoot at me immediately? I feel like that's what's going on. Yeah, see? That marker's over there. That means I went to the wrong ship. But it was missing so many turrets it didn't even fight back for some freaking reason. I figured it's like, I think that's maybe one. I'm gonna change it to like a quick free-for-all, because I'm just gonna ramble until I arbitrarily decide to stream something. Oh, that's, reminds me. My Beyond Light games is like, essentially, it's like, yeah, I switched to me to being more likely to think that the game's wrong than to think that I'm playing the game wrong, to the point where I don't even believe it's possible to play a game wrong. It's only possible to play a game good or bad, not correctly or incorrectly. It's like, well, the only way I think it's possible to play a game incorrectly is if, like, you manage to, like, hurt yourself in the process or destroy like your hardware. To me, it's like, I think that's the closest you could come to playing a game wrong. It's like you're just it's just resulting in destruction. But if you're just like have poor performance in a game, I wouldn't say you're playing the game wrong. I'd just say you're just playing it badly. I think good difference there to playing a game bad. You still play at the sun, that's kind of fun. And it's like, yeah, but essentially changing that mindset was like a huge improvement to my experience playing games. When before it was something I did more out of obligation. I was like getting stuck thinking of long-term goals when on a daily basis I was like not having a very good time, and I was just getting strung along by like end goals. And then eventually, you know, months and years of that got to a boiling point, which hasn't ever happened again since then. Happened. But the other thing I wanted to mention with streaming, I need to talk to some of my tisms and see if they care about me streaming for a much longer period of time every now and then when we're playing a normal game, because I figured that's what it kind of comes down to. That's something I wanted to try and do, is to just be a big stream when I'm playing what I would normally play for Gamus. Instead, because basically with HutterNet, it's something I play specifically to stream at the moment. Mainly because it's not, I used to be a game I would semi-regularly play. And I was thinking, oh man, I might play this game all day if they like did all these things to it, but that hasn't happened. And what actually happened was there's a few changes that I don't like that have changed it to where I no longer enjoy playing the game as much. Which is why I initially made like the 1 hour time commitment to like streaming or whatever that I did in my brain. I figured it's like, I know if I do that, that I'll be able to do that even if I wasn't like thinking the game is fantastic. And even then, it's like, I usually find it fun to play it, even for like a little bit, regardless. Because I know if an hour, there's like a few periods during the week that I just would want to play the game more. I figure it's like, well, that's a good sign. That means that it's like I'm budgeting how long I want to play HutterNet for. Because I knew a year ago with HutterNet that, like, realistically, because the game doesn't have the most content, I'm not going to want to play it for more than like a little bit a week. Just because of that. So I figured it's like an hour. An hour I think I could commit to even if like things went south a little bit, which, and from my point of view, they did personally go south. For me, and then it starts triggering apathy. I mean, but I kind of got everything I wanted out of HutterNet, because the only thing I really wanted to happen was to, like, you know, have Tor join the game, because he was one of the better pilots I knew about, and just to, like, have fun fighting him. And it was a lot of fun. Because that was, I think, still under the symmetrical Gs. Like, and that was, like, probably the peak. Was, we were fighting each other, and we were basically the same skill level. To me, it's like, yeah, that was, like, very satisfying, and that was probably like the most like fun I'll ever have, even though I could fight him for longer than like 30 minutes, even it's no longer fun because I'm like so mentally drained that it's like, can't do this no more, man. Even though it feels like if he wants to, he would freaking duel you for 8 hours and not care. But to me, it's like, yeah, that's the high point, is I feel like when I was probably at my highest skill level of the game, and I was at my highest, like, opinion of the game, I got to fight one of the people who are really good pilots, even though he has nowhere near the experience in a specific game. He has considerably more experience in the genre in general. So I think it balances out maybe, and it ended up being a very fair fight that felt evenly matched. And that's probably going to be the peak. Like, it's never going to get any better than that, really. Because then everything else just feels like feels like I'm struggling with the game constantly and just getting, like, whooped all the time. Which is what it feels like now, is like, yeah, I just get whooped, and I know why I'm getting whooped, but I refuse to do anything about it out of stubbornness. Which is the exact same situation I was in with PlanetSide 2 Air Combat 9 months ago. Which is, I am underperforming, I know why, but I refuse to do anything about it, which is what's changing now. Which is, for whatever reason, I don't care. I actually care to learn, like, a little bit more how PlanetSide 2 works specifically. To the point where I'm, like, 50% more accurate just of aiming in general compared to where I was before. And that's entirely just because of mentality. That has nothing to do with, like, my skill level at all. It's just me, like, not being apathetic anymore and being like, okay, I will surrender to this game's method of aim. Because I don't have, like, a, you know, a pride stake in it anymore. I guess I wouldn't say it's that. It's like I just care more about the performance at this point. Or whatever. So that's, like, one thing, I guess you could say. So that's why I wanted to, like, discuss with my friends. It's like, well, do we want to, like, stream ourselves when we're gonna hang out casually for, like, a few hours and just stream that? It's like, that's what I want to, like, talk with, like, some of these. Because the main thing I notice is, like, we don't really say a lot of stuff that wouldn't be allowed on Twitch when we're not streaming. Like, that's the main thing I notice. Because Twitch, like, bans a lot of specific stuff that doesn't even make sense, essentially. But regardless of that, we don't really, like, every now and then, but that's what I feel like. So I think, like, if Mike Tisms agreed, it's like, I might just start semi-randomly streaming just when I'm gonna be playing, like, PlanetSide 2 or 0K or something. Just casually. With a bunch of Tisms. Even though I personally don't want to do that, because I don't want it to infringe on when I'm playing Gamus for funsies. As in for my pure personal funsies. That's why HunterNet worked out, because HunterNet was an exception where, for a time, playing it and streaming it wasn't interfering with anything. Mainly because none of my friends wanted to play this game with me. And if they did, they just want to hang out in the voice, and that was, like, perfectly fine. But I didn't want to, like, bring it into, like, other games unless I was playing them by myself. Which, that also didn't happen for a few reasons. But that's why I want to talk. It's like, are we fine to do this? Because I would love to, like, stream, like, someone, like, just more in general than just, like, the tiny amount a week I am right now. I just don't want it to infringe on when I'm playing with, like, friendos, as well as, like, my personal enjoyment. That's what I was like, that's sort of the main concern was. So, that was, like, the only other thing. But other than that, I am, had my fulfillment playing this Tismy game that I have very mixed feelings with. Clearly, like, it's how it is. I don't know. I still like playing it. Mainly, I like playing it because all my thoughts will congeal, and I'll be able to figure out what they do. But regardless, you have a fun Tismy day, you Tisms.